I never thought I'd be the guy writing about betrayal like this, but here I am. My name's Mike, and I want to tell my story because maybe someone out there needs to hear it, or maybe I just want to get it off my chest. Either way, this is about how my wife, Lisa, who I've been with for 8 years, turned out to be the biggest lying bitch I've ever known. Things started feeling weird about 3 months ago. At first, I just noticed little stuff. She'd be late coming home from work more often, claiming she was stuck overtime. And her phone would be glued to her hand when she thought I wasn't looking. She'd get defensive if I asked questions, shrugging it off with some snarky comment about work being stressful and how I was just paranoid. Yeah, right. Paranoid because she was hiding something. I'd seen her on her phone more than usual, whispering into it in the bathroom, quickly hiding the screen when I knocked. And then there was the way she started dressing differently, more provocative, more confident. She'd wear these tight blouses and short skirts, which wasn't her usual style. She'd smirk at me when I caught her looking at herself in the mirror like she was proud of some secret. I brushed it off at first, thinking maybe she was just trying to flirt a little or boost her confidence, but deep down I knew something was off. The gut feeling was there, nagging in the back of my mind. The real breaking point came a few weeks ago. My mother had just passed away, a tough time for all of us, especially me. I was a mess, crying, feeling lost, and trying to keep it together. My wife, Lisa, said she'd stay late at work one night, that she needed to finish some report and deal with a few things. I was too emotional to argue, so I just told her to be careful and that I'd see her later. That night after the funeral the day before, I was supposed to find comfort in her, but instead, I decided to check her phone one last time before I went to bed. Just a quick peek, I told myself, to see if she was okay. That's when I saw it. A message thread with her boss. Mark, that was full of flirty, suggestive texts. Nothing explicit at first, just little comments about how she was doing fine at work and looking forward to seeing him tomorrow. But then it turned into more talks about meeting up after hours, secret plans, and even her saying she missed the way he made her feel. My stomach dropped, and I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. That night, instead of sleeping, I just stared at her messages, staring at her words, realizing she had lied to me about staying late at work. She was with him, probably in some hotel or some other place where they could fuck around. The next morning was a blur. I was numb, sick to my stomach. I never thought Lisa, my wife, the woman I trusted, could be capable of such deception. I didn't even wake her up that day. I just sat there, staring at her sleeping face, trying to process what I'd found. I felt betrayed, humiliated, angry all at once. How long had this been going on? How many times had she lied to me? All the signs were there, and I was too blind or too stupid to see it. I wanted to confront her right then, but I knew I needed a plan. I needed to hear her explanation, or maybe just catch her off guard. I couldn't lose my mind in that moment. I had to do this right. So I waited until she got home that evening, nerves tight, heart pounding. I was prepared to hear her lie her way out of it, to hear her paint some picture of just work friends or some bullshit like that. But I knew better. I'd seen her pattern. I knew this wasn't just about work. It was about her needing something she wasn't getting from me, and she was willing to cheat to get it. The pain of betrayal was like a lead weight in my chest, and I was already planning how I'd make her pay for this. When Lisa came home that evening, she looked annoyed, like she was already in a bad mood before even stepping through the door. I could see it in her eyes, that little smirk she always had when she was hiding something. I was sitting on the couch, pretending to watch TV, but really, I was just waiting for her to walk in so I could corner her. I needed answers, and frankly, I needed her to know I wasn't some naive fool anymore. She threw her purse on the table and flopped down on the couch, crossing her arms. "What's your problem, Mike?" she asked, voice dripping with that bitchy attitude she always used when she didn't want to admit something. I kept my face neutral, though inside I was boiling with rage. "Oh, I don't know," I said, voice steady but cold. "It's the fact that I saw your messages with Mark. You know, your boss, the one you told me you were working late with tonight, the one I found in your phone when I decided to check it before bed." Her eyes flicked to mine, and for a moment I thought she was going to deny it. Instead, she just rolled her eyes and gave one of her dismissive smirks. "That's nonsense," she snapped. "You're paranoid. I told you I was working late because I had to finish that report. It's not my fault if you don't trust me. I saw right through her. Obvious lie. She was lying and she knew I knew it. The way she said it, so defensive, so quick to cover her ass, that was a dead giveaway. Really? I pushed. You're working late so often, huh? And I should just believe that. Then why did I find texts from Mark talking about meeting up after hours? Why do I see messages about how much she misses him and how she can't wait to see him again? I could feel my voice rising, but I was so furious that I didn't care anymore. I'd had enough of her bullshit. Lisa stood up now, voice rising to match mine. You don't know what you're talking about, Mike. You're just jealous because I'm working hard. Maybe if you weren't so damn insecure, I wouldn't have to go out and cut the crap, I interrupted. I caught you, Lisa. I saw what's been going on. You're cheating on me, and I don't even know how long this has been going on. How many nights you've been lying in bed, pretending to be asleep while you're out with him. How many times you've told me you're working when you're really fucking your boss. She looked like she was about to explode. Her face turned red and she looked for a way to dismiss it all. You don't know anything, you're just making this up. Mark's a good guy and I'd never cheat on you. You're overreacting like always, just another one of your insecurities. I laughed bitterly. Insecurity? No, Lisa, this isn't insecurity. This is betrayal. You've been lying to my face, sneaking around, and I finally caught you. It's over. I don't know how you managed to turn me into some cuckold, but you did. That's when I saw the first tears start to well up in her eyes, but even then she kept lying. You're crazy, Mike. You're just jealous because I'm the one who's better at sex, better looking, and I don't have to cheat to get what I want. You're just insecure, that's all this is. I knew then that nothing she said would matter. She was a bitch and she was a liar. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach a dozen times. All the trust, all the years we spent building something, gone in a flash. I wasn't foolish enough to believe her tears or her excuses. I knew she'd been lying to me from the beginning. Instead of saying anything more, I just grabbed my keys, walked out, and left her standing there, crying and shouting after me. I didn't want to hear her bullshit anymore. I couldn't. The betrayal cut so deep, I felt like I was bleeding inside. I knew I'd have to decide what to do next, whether to fight for this doomed marriage or cut my losses and walk away. But one thing was clear. I'd never look at her the same way again. After I left her standing in the living room, I drove around for hours, trying to clear my head, but nothing worked. My mind kept circling back to her words, her lies, and that stupid fucking message thread with Mark. It was like a bad movie playing on repeat. I kept asking myself how I hadn't seen it sooner, how I'd been such a damn idiot to trust her so blindly. The truth was, I'd noticed the little signs. Her secretive phone habits, her new attitude, the way she'd look at her boss with that sneaky smirk. But I'd ignored it. I convinced myself she was just trying to boost her confidence, or maybe she was stressed, or I was just imagining things. But now all those tiny cracks in our relationship had blown wide open. She'd been completely dishonest, and I felt like I'd been punched in the face. I kept thinking about the betrayal during my mother's funeral. That night when I was grieving, she was probably out with Mark, clinking glasses or doing God knows what in some hotel lobby. I couldn't even think about how I'd been vulnerable, how I'd trusted her to be there for me, and she was out fucking her boss instead. That realization made my stomach turn. I felt like I'd been punched again, this time in the gut with a baseball bat. I knew I had to do something. I couldn't just let this go, no way. I wasn't the kind of guy to be walked all over, especially not by someone I loved. I decided I'd confront her again, but this time I wanted to see her completely lose her composure, to see her squirm under the weight of her lies. I knew I had to be calculated. So I started planning. I needed to catch her in a lie, expose her for what she really was. First, I decided to check her phone again, this time more thoroughly. I sifted through her messages and call logs looking for any other signs of her affair. That's when I found out she started deleting her texts with Mark, probably trying to hide the evidence. But I knew her tricks. I also noticed she'd been calling him late at night, and her calls to him were more frequent than I'd initially realized. She'd even started booking late work meetings on her calendar, which I managed to access online. All of it confirmed what I'd already suspected. This wasn't just some fling, it was full-blown affair. The next step was to get proof. I set up a hidden recording app on her phone, just in case she slipped and said something that could really ruin her. I wanted her to slip up. I needed to catch her off guard to get her to admit everything. I also started following her, just to see where she went and who she met. Turns out, she'd been meeting Mark in that same hotel lobby. I'd seen her in the night I caught her. I saw her sneaking out late at night, looking over her shoulder, trying to be sneaky. And the worst part, she had the nerve to act innocent when I called her out. One night I followed her again. She was in her car, parked outside the hotel, texting. I managed to get close enough to hear her say, "Tonight's the night." Then she got out and went inside. My blood boiled. I'd seen enough. She'd been lying to me from the start, and I was done being the fool. I went back home, feeling a mixture of rage, heartbreak, and a strange sense of clarity. I knew I had to confront her again, but this time I'd be ready. I was sick of her lies, sick of her cheating. I deserved better. We all do when someone betrays us so completely. The next morning, I woke up with a plan in my head, although I wasn't entirely sure how I was going to execute it. I just knew I couldn't keep pretending I was okay anymore. I had the evidence, the recordings, the texts, everything I needed to finally confront Lisa with the truth. But I also knew I had to be cautious. I didn't want her to get wind of my plans or destroy the evidence. This was going to be the showdown I'd been dreading, but also craving, a chance to finally get some answers and put an end to her lies. I spent the morning setting everything up. I made sure the recording app was working, double-checked her calendar, and even installed a hidden camera in the living room. I didn't trust her to just admit it outright, so I wanted her to slip up, to show her true colors when she thought I wasn't looking. I also reached out to a friend I knew could help me if things got ugly, someone who could be there just in case she decided to get confrontational or worse. When she came home that evening, I was already sitting on the couch, calm but prepared. I looked at her with a mixture of disgust and sadness. She was wearing her usual bitchy smirk, like she thought she was untouchable. She sat down next to me, crossing her arms again. "So," she said, voice dripping with sarcasm, "what's the big idea? You've been acting all weird today." I took a deep breath. "Lisa, I found your damn messages. I know about you and Mark. I know you've been cheating on me during my mother's funeral when I was grieving and you were out with him in some hotel lobby. I have the recordings, the texts, everything. And I want to hear it from you straight up. Tell me what the hell is going on." Her face flickered with shock for a second, then she immediately went into her usual defensive mode. "You're crazy, Mike. You're just paranoid. I don't know what you're talking about. This is all a mistake." She tried to brush it off, but I pressed the button on my phone, and the recording started to play her voice, talking to Mark about how much she missed him and wanted to see him again. Her words echoed loudly in the room, filling the space with the truth she couldn't deny anymore. She looked like she'd been caught in the act, her eyes darting around, trying to come up with an excuse. "Listen," she started, voice trembling now, "it's not what you think. Mark's just a coworker. We've been friends, that's all. It's not cheating, it's just sexless work talk, okay? It's not a big deal." Her words sounded hollow, like she was just trying to save herself from the inevitable. I felt my blood boil. "That's bullshit, Lisa. I caught you lying, sneaking around, meeting him late at night. You're not just friends, you're fucking him, aren't you?" I couldn't hold back anymore. The betrayal, the pain, it all exploded in that moment. My voice cracked and I knew I sounded broken, angry, betrayed, everything I'd been holding inside. Her eyes narrowed and she suddenly snapped. "You think I need to cheat to get what I want? You honestly think I care about this marriage anymore? You're such a fucking idiot, Mike." I was bored. I needed excitement and Mark gave me that. Maybe if you weren't so insecure, I wouldn't have had to look elsewhere. She spat the words out like venom, and I realized then that she wasn't going to take responsibility. She was justifying her actions, insisting she was the victim here. I stood up, my fists clenched. "You're a lying, manipulative bitch. I gave you everything, my trust, my love, and you just threw it all away for some sex with your boss. I want you out. I want you gone, and I never want to see your face again." I was trembling with rage but also relief. I'd finally uncovered the truth, and I knew what I had to do next. As she gathered her things and stormed out, I felt a strange mixture of emptiness and liberation. It hurt like hell to realize that my marriage was over, that the woman I loved didn't love me back, and that she'd been cheating during my darkest hour. But I also knew I'd been blindsided for too long. I'd been a fool, but I was done being a fool. This was the end. And honestly, I didn't know if I'd ever fully recover from it. After Lisa left the apartment that evening, I just stood there for a long time, staring at the door she just walked out of. The house felt incredibly cold and empty without her. I was exhausted physically and emotionally, drained from the roller coaster of rage and heartbreak. Honestly, I didn't know what was worse. Knowing she'd been lying to my face, or realizing that I'd loved her enough to let her ruin us. I spent the next couple of days in a fog. I didn't want to eat, didn't want to sleep, and yet I couldn't think about anything else. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her in that hotel lobby with Mark, her smile, her laugh, her pretending to be innocent. I replayed the moments we shared, the plans we made, and I felt like a fool for not seeing it coming. I kept asking myself how I was so blind. How did I miss all those signs? I thought I knew her, but apparently I never really did. In the midst of all this, I had to make some decisions. Honestly, part of me wanted to fight for the marriage, to try and save what little was left. But deep down, I knew Lisa had already checked out. She'd been cheating on me during my mother's funeral, the most vulnerable moment of my life, and I could never forget that. She had broken every trust I ever had. So I made up my mind I was done. No more trying to fix things. No more begging her to stay. I needed to get out, to detach myself from the wreckage she created. I called a lawyer, started looking into what I needed to do to file for divorce. It felt surreal, like I was watching someone else's life. I hadn't told many people what had happened. I just wanted to handle it quietly without making a spectacle. But I also knew I would need support, so I reached out to a couple of close friends, guys I trusted, who could give me some perspective. The hardest part wasn't just losing her. It was realizing I'd spent years building something with someone who didn't value me enough to be honest. As I started to pack up her things, I felt a strange sense of relief mixed with despair. I was finally free from the lies, from the betrayal, but I also felt that gnawing emptiness inside. The worst part was knowing I'd never get the apology or the closure I wanted. Lisa was still acting like I was just some jealous fool, like she hadn't fucked her boss behind my back during my mother's funeral. That realization hit me hard. Some part of me still hoped she'd come back and own up, but I knew better. She'd already moved on, probably planning her next adventure. The divorce process dragged on for a few months, filled with legal battles, emotional exhaustion, and a lot of reflection. I took time off work, went to therapy, tried to figure out how I'd let myself get so blindsided. I learned that trusting blindly can destroy you if you're not careful. I also learned that even the people you love can betray you in ways you never expected. Most importantly, I learned to put myself first, to stop blaming myself for her lies and manipulations. Looking back now, I realize that this whole experience changed me. I'm more guarded, more cautious about who I let into my life. But I also know I'm stronger than I thought. I've survived something I thought I never would, and that's a lesson I'll carry with me forever. If there's one thing I want to tell anyone going through something similar, it's this. Trust your instincts, but don't ignore the warning signs. And when someone shows you who they really are, believe them. Because those betrayals cut deep, but in the end, they make you realize your worth. Now, as I sit here reflecting on everything that's happened, I realize how much I've been through just to get to this point. The pain of betrayal never truly goes away. It lingers in the background like a ghost I can't quite shake. But I've learned to live with it, to accept that some things are beyond my control. Lisa was a liar, a cheat, and someone who shattered the trust I thought was unbreakable. That realization hit hard, but it also freed me in a strange way. I've come to understand that betrayal isn't just about the other person, it's about how you choose to respond. I could have spiraled into bitterness, into hatred, but instead, I chose to focus on myself. I've started going to the gym again, reconnecting with old friends, and even picking up new hobbies. The worst thing you can do after something like this is let it define you. I refuse to be that guy who got played and then gave up. No, I'm rebuilding, slowly but surely. What I want anyone reading this to take away is this: when someone shows you who they really are, believe them. Don't make excuses, don't justify their actions. If your gut tells you something isn't right, listen to it. Because trust is a fragile thing, and once broken, it's almost impossible to put back together. But life moves on, and so should you. You're stronger than the lies you've been told. You're worth more than the nights spent questioning your own worth. So I'm done with her. Done with the lies, the pain, the what-ifs. I forgive myself for trusting her for so long, and I forgive her for not being the woman I thought she was. But I won't forget. I'll carry this lesson with me forever, and I'll be cautious with who I give my heart to next. Because now I know that real love isn't about blind trust. It's about honesty, respect, and loyalty. And if someone can't give you that, then they don't deserve a place in your life. The hardest part was accepting that sometimes people you love can hurt you the most. But I also learned that you can survive it and come out stronger. I've lost a lot, but I've gained clarity. I've learned my worth, and I won't settle for anything less than honesty. That's the final lesson I want to leave here. Never settle for betrayal, because your happiness is too precious to waste on someone who doesn't value you enough.